Hi Nate and Andrew, Steve Delario with Letsplan, doing a quick demo for you just to show its capabilities, also some of the back end of what it does. So here we have the website, letsplan.com. This is where if you decided to use Letsplan as a meeting moment for a customer, this is where a customer might call, you would send them to Letsplan. They would put their name here. It would open a box for the room name. Every loan officer that signs up for Letsplan gets a room name. They would choose their own room name. It's all lowercase and they're all unique. But in the case of a loan officer logging in, first step is to click on MLO Login, put in your name or your login information, usually an email, and then your password. Once you're logged in, you will see the dashboard. So the dashboard has the date, has steps on how to start a meeting, and starting a meeting is the essence of Letsplan. It's the first thing you do if you have a customer that you'd like to meet with. Whether it's live, which you can do, of course, from your screen, or if you want them to come in because they're now remote, they're someplace else and they have a web browser. It's web browser or web browser technology. So on both ends, you need a web browser. The loan officer is starting the meeting, operating the meeting. The customer is entering the meeting. But in this case, you would start a meeting, then you would let that customer in. A customer could sign in. They could go to the website, put in their name, put in your room name, and be waiting, and you could then join up afterwards. So it's not as if they aren't able to log in, but they just can't see your screen until you admit them. In this screen area from the dashboard, you have other options. On the left menu banner, you've got the meeting library. So here are different past meetings that were had. And in there, I could resume a meeting. That means I could go and edit it, but also demonstrate it to a third party. Have someone come in, log in to see, what we're doing. And this would be a customer who would, as I showed in that one screen, put in their name and then my room name. You could also print. This is the view as a PDF, so it would open up a new tab. And then this is the edit. This is where you just want to play in the meeting and you don't have to save it. Also from the dashboard, you have a profile. This is when you're onboarded, where you put your picture, you'd upload it. This is where you can see your meeting room name. In fact, you could change your meeting room name if you weren't satisfied with the one you have. We also would have your information, which includes your NMLS number. That's important. You must put in your NMLS number because as a loan officer, it has to be shown for compliance. Then the optional items are the company name, the address, your email, as well as your phone number. Down at the very bottom is the logo. This is where, of course, you'd upload your logo, and this would appear in the middle of the page, the cover page that every customer would see. Some teams are a combination of, let's say, two loan officers. So what I've seen them do is create a sort of a banner image where they have their pictures on both sides, their contact information, including their NMLS, and a logo in the middle. Because this banner, you can resize it here, as you can see from the scaling, and it will span across the page. You have the ability to manage your fees. All of these are the fees. There are a staple set of fees that are automatically put in when someone signs in. And then, of course, they can alter them. You can also add fees. You can subtract fees. There's a tiering here for the escrow settlement fee and title. And that tiering looks like this. So you can enter these, delete these, stage them in any way that you like. Like in this example, from home price of 0 to 100,000 is a fee of $540. The settlement fee, of course, is triggered on the sale price, and title insurance in a similar fashion is triggered on the loan amount, and it states so. I did add a fee here, something unique. I wanted to show what it can do. You can, of course, move this around. Once you add a fee, you can move any of these around. But I added a jumbo appraisal fee. I added $200, and what that means is I have it triggered. You click on Show Options, and I have it triggered that every time I choose a jumbo loan program, this fee goes from 0 to $200. You can do this with any fee setup that you'd like. We have our cost factors. This is where if you decided you wanted to have a consistent discount points, which you could also do in the other page. But you might have, let's say, a refinance fee. This is where escrow might charge a flat fee. The rest of these are more important. You have your homeowner's insurance rate. So this is a percent of the sales price. Likewise for tax rate. And the way to get this number, for example, the tax rate, this 0.0009 happens to be 1.08% divided by 12. Same thing with if it were 1 1/4 for a tax rate, you would take that 1 1/4 divided by 12 and get 0.0010467. The mortgage insurance factor, it's at 70%. The higher that factor, the higher the PMI. would show up as a monthly payment. So you can adjust it here, or you can adjust it on the fly within a mortgage plan. But if you find that consistently your PMI is higher or lower, you can adjust that percent higher or lower, and you'll see that becoming the staple for every mortgage plan you create. Days of interest, months of tax, depending on your state or county, you can of course make that change. And then, for example, in my state it's 6. Other states it might be 12, like for example Oregon, in which case I would have put, if I were working in Oregon, I would change that to a 12. You can manage your subscription from here. You can view details. And this is a monthly subscription. You can cancel at any time. And then finally, you can create a team. So this is important. So the cost of Letsplan is $50 per loan officer, but if they have a team, if they want to add individuals, and those individuals would have their own room name, the loan officer would create that room name, and they could assign it to someone, invite them, and they would come in. So they could have a team, and it's only $10 for any additional person. They have full access to everything. They have full capability. They would all be sharing the same library. That's the essence of this. So if you have a team of loan officers and you want them all to be working under you, anyone who you bring in as a team will have your account information. So when they print or create a meeting and a plan, a mortgage plan, then your picture, your contact information, all would appear in the cover page. They can also edit files and go from there, but only you, the loan officer, have control over the meeting library, meaning you have the trash bin. So if someone accidentally erases some things or deletes it, you can restore it, or only you can permanently delete it. Also, you're the only one as loan officer who has the ability to add or subtract fees and cost factors. Please know also we have a setting here. No admin, I built this in, no admin has access to your file or to your account in any way. You would have to allow them in, and the only thing they would be able to see is your managed fees and managed cost factors section in the event that you needed help. That setting by default is not toggled on. Okay, so let's use a demonstration here. So we're going to imagine that a person, John Williams, is about to call me, or has called me and said, "Hey Steve, I got your name from my realtor. I'm interested in setting up a meeting. I want to buy a house. I've never bought a home before." I would say, "John, do you have time now? Do you happen to be in front of a computer or something that has a web browser?" Any web browser will do on any device. It's universal. It can be on a phone, could be a tablet, could be a Mac, a Windows piece, doesn't matter. Android, all devices with a web browser will work. So he would say, "Yes, I happen to be near one." Most everyone is. So I'd say, "Well, let's start a meeting. So why don't you come in, John? Go to letsplan.com and put your name in the very middle of the screen." He would go. And he'd say, "I see it needs a room name." I'd say, "Oh, my room name is Letsplan." So he'd type that in. He'd hit submit, then join. And then I would see a box appear on the right. I just clicked the participants, but it would automatically pop open. I would see John's name, and I would see deny or admit, red and green button. I would click the admit button. John would then be brought into the room, and I would ask, "Do you happen to see the cover page?" John would say, "I do, yes. I see Letsplan Individual Mortgage Plan prepared for." And I'd say, "Okay, I'm going to put in your name right now. Do you see me typing your name?" They usually say, yeah, this is pretty cool. I can see it. Awesome. So this is live. And John, I wanted to let you know, my philosophy is you're the boss. You make all decisions. I don't make any. I'm going to present numbers to you. I want to win your business here. So I also want to be your trusted advisor in banking. So John, let's walk through this. I also want you to know that I'm going to be not only a banker with you, but I'm going to be a financial coach because I want to speak outside of being a banker. I want to give maybe different advice if I see some credit information or things that stick out that I think I can bring to your attention. He'd say, "That sounds great." I also tell him this will take about 15 to 30 minutes depending on questions and stuff, so we'll walk through it. I would ask him his street address, his city, state, zip. Notice they're separate fields, by the way. So this allows you, once you fill in this data, including on other pages his contact information, you have the ability to download it as a CSV file and bring it into your marketing system. I'd ask him, "Who referred you to me?" He might give me a name of a realtor. Awesome, now I know who to contact. So I'd say, all right, we have 2 very important pages, the first of which is the monthly income page. I call it the mortgage wallet page. And what we're going to do is, using bank math, identify what you can afford monthly. That's key. So John, I understand that you work for Amazon and that you're a software engineer and that you've been there for 5 years. Awesome. I hear that your salary is $155,000. Great. And normally you could put in a second borrower. You could make this a bonus and averaged, and put the average over 2-year bonus just by typing in the information, etc. You can add more or less. But in this case, this example, John, I understand we're going to use just this number. So we have $155,000 now divided by 12. Now we have a monthly number. This area, by the way, I always ask for annual income. The reason being is that in the past, when we would ask for, hey, do you know what your monthly gross pay is? They would give me their take home. Almost always. No one seems to remember their gross pay. They would have to back into it from the annual. So annual salary, hourly rate, all that you can back into pretty quick. So that's the purpose behind it. This is the area I call the proud. This is our identity. So going back into it, John, I just, we're now at 12,917, and I want you to know that a banker, as a rule of thumb, we might take 45% of your gross pay. Now, we could go to 43 if it's jumbo. We could go to 50% as a maximum, depending on the loan programs. But let's say 45% of your gross pay, which is $5,813. We could spend that towards car payments, minimum credit card payments, minimum student loan, motorcycle, boat, RV, other fees, or debt. And then we'll arrive at this mortgage wallet number. So do you have any car payments? He says 800. Great. Do you have any minimum payments on credit cards? $50. So keeping them pretty light. Do you have any student loans? He might say, yes, I do. I have $100K in student loans. Got it. What's your minimum payment? He says $300. Any motorcycle, boat, RVs? No. I assume you don't receive or pay out any alimony or child support? No. And just as a demonstration, if he had rental, he's a new home buyer, but if he had a rental property, I'd say, what's the rent? I'd put in the rent, $3,000 in this case. The system will automatically take 75%. Then I'll subtract out the actual mortgage. The math is done. I see we have a net of $250. Take that out since we're talking to a first-time home buyer. So I'd say, John, I want you to see the numbers. I want you to know that you can afford a payment of $4,663 using bank math. This is how banks think. We're focused on payment. And he'd see it and go, wow, that's amazing. I never thought I could purchase a home. And that, by the way, is 62% of the population. 62% of the people, because of this section, I call it the pain. There's the proud, there's the pain. The pain is debt. They think that they can't buy a home. And it's so important that you go through this. And if you can do it in advance of the making application, I highly recommend it. My experience since 2006 with this has been that 62% of the population think they can't buy a home for various reasons. The majority is because of monthly debt. They think that they don't qualify. They think that they have to have 20% down. But the debt is one of the big pain points. And if you get them past this piece right here and arrive at a mortgage wallet number, you're going to be just fine. So in this case, I'd say, well, now that we've identified a number, and granted, it could be higher. I mean, if I were to go to 50%, which bankers could do, John, they would say you can afford a payment of $5,300. Oh, I don't want that. I don't want to do that. That's too much. Of course it is. I'm not recommending that. What I'm going to find is, from you, where you want to sit. So do you happen to know your credit score? And he might say, well, I looked at Credit Karma and it says 780. Okay, we'll test that if you go and do application, but we're just kind of playing at the 10,000-foot level to see what you can afford. What do you currently pay for rent? You're renting, right? Yeah, I'm renting. I pay $3,200. Very good. Do you have a target payment, or do you have a haven't price in mind? Well, I haven't bought a home before, but I don't want to spend more than $4,200, he might say. Awesome. We'll put that number in. Any bankruptcies in the last 7 years? The answer is no. What's your residency status? He says U.S. citizen. Okay, and now, very important here, John. In buying a home, you need to have some funds, down payment, closing costs. I'll show you on the next page. Do you have any money set aside for buying a home? And he said, actually, I do. I got $100K and it's in savings. All right, awesome. There we go. So, John, does this page make sense? And they almost always say yes, right? We might go through it again, but they see the logic of it. It's simple, it's easy, it's there. I'll then ask them for their email address, their telephone number, and I'll say, John, I'm going to send you every one of these pages. So this is a work in process, right? So that you have a basis to work from, and then I'll send you a link to do application with this. This will be a PDF file for you. Now I've got my marching orders. We're going to spend $100,000, and we want to get payment of $4,200. So let's go to the loan scenarios page. This is where we buy a house on paper. It's made up of 3 parts. How much home are we buying at the top minus down payment? In the middle, what's our mortgage payment going to be? Our focus is always on payment, by the way, because that's what matters is the payment. And this includes any and all loan programs. So in this example, we'll start with a conventional loan. I'll, for example, demonstration purposes, do an FHA and a VA first use loan. All numbers will be calculated for us, including the funding fees. In every case here, let's just go 6.5%. All right. And Here at the bottom will be the fees and costs. So what are they? Those are the closing costs and the prepaids. The fixed fees and the fees that will ebb and flow, and eventually when you sell your home, you'll get back whatever's left in that account upon the sale. Also on this page, for our uses as a loan officer, is going to be the front and back ratio, as well as the APR for the customer. But front and back ratio, just to keep ourselves out of trouble, to make sure our ratios, we don't go overboard on our ratios. By the way, the fees and costs page is, this section is fed by the page 4, fees and costs here. So 3,881, there it is, 3,881. Once I put in a purchase price and a down payment and an interest rate, which we've done, all of these will populate and they will scale. All as they should. If there's any credits, you can add credits down here. You just put it as a whole number. It will show up as a credit on the cover page, on the front page of the loan scenarios down here. All right. So John, in this example, we have a lot of money. So I'm going to put 10% down up here, go minimum with 3.5% FHA, and of course VA would be 0. So we'll start off with, let's say, a $500,000 home. And using a conventional loan, $500,000 with 10% down, we have a payment of $3,441. Closing costs, prepaids, roughly $10,513. So we're spending $60,500 roughly for this $500,000 home. We're not close to the $4,200 yet. So let's move up. Let's go to 600. Wow, we're getting really close. Here we are. $4,129. Our taxes are scaling. Our homeowner's insurance and the mortgage insurance are all scaling. The mortgage insurance is, the PMI, is based on down payment and the credit score that I put in the previous page. Right here. It has to be only one number. So don't combine numbers. You would need to put just one number in there and it will key off that for the MGIC factor. So it's using MGIC tables here. All right, John, let's move up. Let's go to 610. We're getting really close. Let's say 611. There we are. Okay, so $611,000 home with 10% down is a total payment of $4,205, taxes, insurance, all parts, including the mortgage, principal, and interest. So we've hit your number. So if you're going to be using a conventional loan and putting 10% down, you're shopping for a $611,000 home. Total cash needed right now is $72,800. That includes, that's a down payment plus the closing costs combined. Ratios look good. We're in good shape. So that's how fast and easy it is to create a scenario. Everything's done for me. If I wanted to stop here, we could. If he said, hey, that's perfect, that's all I want, send it to me and I want to go do application. And we've just spent a fraction of the time. For your demonstration, I want to show you FHA. So when I put in FHA and VA, notice the funding fee. So it's done again. We have the credit, we have our interest rates in, we have our loan amount, our purchase price, we have our down payment, depending on the program. It put in the funding fee, and the funding fee does know how to balance based off of down payment percentage as well as the PMI. But here you can see, for example, VA first use, there's your funding fee for first use, but subsequent use will be higher. There it is. And of course, you have the option for a no funding fee in case they have permanent disability. Now, customer, we could go through different scenarios. In this case, we might decide, so instead of FHA, which wouldn't be relevant for a customer who might have a high credit score, we might go FHA and decide we would go for a buy down. What you have when using this, let's put 10% up here, is you have the ability, these discount points and mortgage factors that you see right here. If a customer is viewing it because they came in your room and you allowed them in, they cannot see this section. And the idea is it gives you fleet of foot. It allows you to quickly put in a number. In this case, because we're showing a lower interest rate, we're going to charge a point. And now that I put a number there, discount points will appear in that column. And it will scale. So if you start moving your number around, up or down, then this 1% will scale on the fee side. So now we're showing a buy down. And we might say, great, buy down. So you have a note section. You could put address, you could put anything in here to help explain what this column represents. And then I might do a maximum price, because a customer might say, well, you know, because the ratios, there's still room, right? You can go up to 45, you can go to $5,300 payment. So let's make this a conventional loan, which we have here. And we've matched it to scenario 1. So let's start moving this number up. Maybe go to 5% and raise this to 700,000. Look at that. So we're at a 38.24 back ratio. So far, everything looking pretty good. We have a little bit more room. But that's the point of it. Now I have a full set for a customer to see. And we found through our testing that this is, by the way, made for the public. The public and consumers, borrowers, They like simple, easy, fast, convenient, and this is exactly what they've asked for. They don't want to see any more columns than 3. Anything less seems anemic. So all of these pages have been vetted to the public and over years, by the way, and tested. And this is what helps them understand the loan programs, the numbers, and what you're saying, and convey it very quickly on your side. So we're done. We have all the parts. There's some additional pages, by the way. There's a loan comparison page. This is very handy for when you want to show different scenarios, maybe 15%, 20 or 15 year, 25 year, but what interest savings over time might occur. Debt snowball, in case they have lots of debt, you want to help them, find a faster way to pay off debt. It's the debt snowball technique. And a loan amortization section where you can put in a loan amount, an interest rate, and it gives you all the payments. Some customers would love to see that. Or maybe they want to see how fast they could pay down their loan. Here's a 30-year, and we could put in $250 extra per month, and now they'll own it in 24.6. You can also back into the date in case a customer doesn't happen to remember or know what their loan balance is, and this might be a refinance. So you can go back in time and then key on the date to see, hey, based on making no extra payments, your balance should be X. Please know on the loan scenarios, you have the ability for a refinance. You can click refinance, and then now we have a payoff amount. So this could be the payoff amount to then present a refinance. You also have the ability to change the terms of years, of course, the loan program to match. A lot of functionality, including second mortgages. You can type in a second mortgage. It will immediately put that number up above. In this case, it's 10%. So since we have 10% here, maybe they don't want to pay MI. I'll fully amortize it, hit save. And what it did was, of course, it moved the 10% second mortgage up into the down payment to equal what would be the first mortgage loan amount. We have a second mortgage right here, and now we have a scenario that involves a second mortgage. You can always remove it, go back to what you had originally. Now we're back to 10%. That right there in a nutshell is Letsplan. Let's demonstrate how I would then send a number to a customer. So I'd say, John, thank you for your time. I'm going to send you these links. Was this helpful? He says, yes, it was great. Yeah, I want to do application. Perfect. So I'm going to end the meeting. It takes John's name, whatever was typed in there, and it takes the date. Now I get to edit it. I'm going to say first meeting. You could also say pre-qualified. Save and end. And there we go. So here's John, first meeting, the date, who did it, myself, so you can track in case you have a team. Last edited. Now I could resume this meeting, or maybe now I want to send it to him. So I'm going to click PDF. In my browser, it'll open up a new tab and it'll present the PDF. There's everything that we did. There's our loan scenario. There's the fees and costs. So I can now download or print if I'm meeting with a customer live. But in this case, I would download it to a directory. I would then send that PDF to my customer using my company email, and I have a signature that has the link to do application with instructions. Now, the mode, what I typically do is I will send the customer that loan scenario with a link to do application. They do application. I'll then go back into the meeting room after they've been pre-approved and I'll edit. I'll then update this for what might be the real accurate credit score and what income can I use, and maybe there are some additional debts or maybe there are fewer debts, all depending, right? So things can change. And then update the scenarios if needed. Then I'm going to go back, and when I go to edit to exit, I now will change this to say pre-approved. Now we have a basis to work from. And by the way, you can check any box and turn anything into the PDF, including these other sections. You can omit parts, you can add parts. Now you notice I have the ability to save and exit, or I can exit without saving. So this is the edit mode, but I used to use it for convenience. So I'm going to save and exit. There it is right here. And I have the ability now, of course, to send it to the customer and say, congratulations, you're pre-approved. You've been pre-approved for this amount. Everything's consistent with what you told us. And I would tell the customer from this point forward, what I want to do is whenever you find a home that you like, just text it to me. Just give me a call. I will run new numbers on the loan scenarios. And then in the notes section, which appear over here, I'm going to maybe put the address, or I'll show a scenario of a rate buy down, depending on what the customer wants. But instead of sending the whole package, I'm going to use the snipping tool in Windows and just snip the loan scenarios and put it in the body of the email. Now it's convenient for the customer to quickly see it, including their realtor. There's nothing proprietary here in this page, the loan scenarios page. I never want the realtor or anybody else to see the income page, the mortgage wallet part. just this loan scenario. So now everything's based on this, the loan scenarios page. Everything's here in a nutshell, including the closing cost summary. So customers typically prefer this, and now my job is that much easier. By the way, you have the ability to convert things from English to Spanish. So I could convert everything to Spanish, go back and reprint a program, PDF, and there it is now in Spanish. The customer, when they're visiting you, by the way, has the same slider. So you could be in English presenting a meeting. They could slide the slider to Spanish, and everything they're viewing is in Spanish while you're still in English. So it doesn't change what you're doing. It just is convenient for the customer. It was one of our most requested changes, and we made that change. So it's been out for several months now, and so far, perfect. Anyway, that right there in a nutshell is Letsplan. It's what its capabilities are. It's meant to enhance how you do your job, make it easier, smoother, give you quality of life, and life balance, so that you work-life balance, so you can find yourself having more time to do marketing, to living your life. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much. I look forward to you trying Letsplan.